adopting your dog doesn't inherently make you a good dog owner. Buying your dog doesn't inherently make you a bad dog owner.
Yeah. Just because someone says they're a rescue or sanctuary does not automatically make them a good human being.
If you're going to acknowledge that there are bad breeders, and there are, you have to acknowledge that there's bad rescues.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another topic and Q&A with Duke.
And Stephanie.
And Steph. How's it going, guys? Okay, so super controversial topics today. Every single one. We're going to ruffle all the feathers. Not really, kind of. Controversial topics is actually one of our topics.
Let's see how long it takes us to get through one controversial topic, because this might be a few different videos.
When we say controversial topics,
it's polarizing. It's what it is. It's not even controversial. I feel like it's like black. It's so black and white, and there's very few people that sit in between, which yes. I feel like if there are more people sitting in between, conversations can actually be had and things would get done.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Before we dive into our actual topic and then the Q&A, that's a big one with controversial topics.
Right.
Steph and I are very aware. Controversial topics, people that take polarizing stances on one extreme or the other, are able to grow their market, their network quickly, because people are tribal. Yeah. That's how our society works. People want extremes. That's not how Steph and I work, because I don't think it's productive.
Yeah. It's very hard to have a conversation.
Actually getting things done with the dogs. Not to say all people that are controversial don't, but like the majority of people you see on social media that are like very extreme or almost degrading to other ends.
Yeah.
It's clickbait. It's clickbait because it attracts people. It doesn't actually get anything done. And I can equate that to our topic.
Yeah.
Because this is a big thing in rescue, and I think it's a problem, is the adopt versus shop. And with adopt versus shop, just on the surface level, right? There's a lot of rescues that are very much so F anyone that buys their dog, F all breeders. If you are trying to educate somebody who bought their dog, right? And I don't want to say convert them to rescue, but, educate them, let them know how many good dogs are in shelters, are in rescues that need help. Telling them to go F off doesn't actually help. That's not going to educate or convert them. If anything, they're going to double down.
Yeah.
That's why I think
this is exactly why I went and bought a dog, because people in rescue are unhinged.
I think, again, yeah. And that approach is self-serving. If anything, I look at that and it's selfish. So if you're taking the approach of the majority of Americans, dog owners, pet owners, are monsters and you don't care, they're not going to want to listen to you. Right. You have to take a more rational approach. So I look at it the same as like adopt versus shop. Right? If you're going at somebody with nothing but hate and slander and attacking them, that's not productive. Right. You're not actually going to get them involved in rescue. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't like diving into polarizing topics and taking hard stances.
Well, can you imagine, let's just take something that's very simple, right? Let's say someone really does not like the color red. Okay. Yeah. And you're wearing a red shirt, and this person comes up to you in public and it starts yelling at you about wearing this red shirt. And it's awful. I can't believe you. You're not going to say, well, I just really like this red shirt and I got it at this place and I thought I was doing the right thing. You're going to turn around and be like, you know what? Fuck you. I like this red shirt. Your blue shirt is stupid. And this is why I got this red shirt. And it's going to turn into this whole thing. If someone's coming at you hot, most people are going to get defensive and turn around and start an argument, and nothing is going to get done. It's very hard to come down when you're in this heightened state of emotion and anger to have a conversation. If you come into the environment with, hey, I saw you got your dog from X, Y, and Z, and I'm glad you're a good dog parent. Seems like the dog has a really great life, but are you open to having a conversation about what's going on in our shelter system? Like, something along those lines. Yeah. We see it on social media a ton where people will get hate and it's not a productive conversation. And then you've pushed another person away from learning about what's going on in the crisis of the shelter system and how rescues are drowning. And, we always say this, people don't know what they don't know. Yes, people can easily Google something, right? But you don't know what you don't know. And some people don't understand what's going on in the shelter system.
Well, and I think even people in rescue that are hardcore, only adopt.
Yeah.
And look, don't get it twisted. Steph and I, obviously, we've dedicated our lives to this.
Right.
We will 1000% always advocate for adopting a dog. That's literally our body of work. Our body of work shows that. But we have such a massive problem that people in rescue don't realize how bad it is. Steph and I, as much as you guys think you see it as bad as you think it is still a very small percentage. Like, we're not sharing the emails we get every day from the shelters we're partnered with hundreds of dogs, literally hundreds of dogs daily that are scheduled to be put down.
Right.
So you are trying to convert so many people over to rescue. Why would you alienate crowds?
Yeah.
Let's say somebody went and bought their dog, right? Does that immediately make them a bad dog owner? No. They might care for that dog until they're 15, spend tens of thousands of dollars on medical and a wheelchair and whatever else they need. Somebody might go to a shelter, show an ID, pay $20, pick up their dog, and dump them 6 weeks later. Like, rescuing your dog doesn't inherently
tether them
you
to a tree in the backyard.
I mean, I forget, there's the study from Orvis and Pet, and it's really the only one you can find. And the numbers were so bad, maybe they don't want another study, but I think it was like 68% of dogs adopted from public shelters are no longer within the same home within 6 months.
Yeah.
Adopting your dog doesn't inherently make you a good dog owner. Buying your dog doesn't inherently make you a bad dog owner.
Yeah.
Also, to that point, I will say, with as many people that do buy their dogs, that could potentially be good dog owners. And with the problem we have, Steph and I like to look at it from a rational perspective. So step one, how can we educate people that are going to buy their dogs no matter what? How can we make sure they don't go to a backyard breeder? Don't go to somebody that's really abusing and hurting dogs.
Right.
Like, how do we help them identify a good breeder? However you want to word it, I really don't care.
Right. And we've said this time and time again. You can use these same questions that we tell people to propose to backyard breeders or breeders in general to a rescue. Ask rescues the same question, because not all breeders are bad, just like not all rescues/sanctuaries are good. You guys have seen it time and time again, and it's been coming up more often now, I think, because social media. But you see these stories of rescues that pull an obscene amount of dogs, shove them in boarding. They go to some sanctuary out in the middle of nowhere, and the dog's never heard from again. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, this sanctuary or rescue is getting busted, and dogs are being confiscated in awful conditions.
Yep.
And people are like, oh my gosh, I donated to that dog, and it's heartbreaking. People are spending their hard-earned money and donating to rescues that are just shipping dogs off, and you never hear from them again. So, just because someone says they're a rescue or sanctuary does not automatically make them a good human being.
No.
So these questions that we tell people, like, if you're going to go buy your dog, ask them, have, the dog's been fully vetted? Have they been health tested? The parents have been health tested. How many times a year do you breed your female?
Can I see the mom and dad?
Can I see, or the mom and dad
property
on
where the dogs are living, how they're living? And the same goes for rescues and sanctuaries. Like, we do our first meets at the property.
Yep.
Like, come here. You've seen it on YouTube, Patreon.
Right. We give the dog's medical records. You're not going to have a surprise a month after you rescue the dog that the dog has a heart condition or something.
And also contracts where dogs have to come back to us.
Right.
I mean, if you're buying a dog from a breeder and they don't have that in the contract,
or don't have a contract,
or don't have a contract, or if they're not making sure their dogs are fixed after.
Yeah.
I mean, there's red flags, and we have a separate video on that you can look through, but that's kind of the key takeaway.
Yeah.
Because, if you're going to acknowledge that there are bad breeders, and you have to acknowledge that there's bad rescues.
Yeah.
Like, it goes on both ends. And,
Duke and I have had multiple conversations about, oh God, we just have to get out of rescue. Like, I don't even like the name rescue or sanctuary.
There's so many bad ones popping up.
And it's probably
really terrifying.
It's honestly probably just as worse, I think, at this point. For the good reputable breeders out there that hear about Joe Schmo down the street who's a backyard breeder who gives all breeders bad names.
It's definitely worse.
Right.
Because you have Craigslist and people that don't even identify as breeders that just like, oh, my dog got pregnant.
Right,
and then you have 100 dogs later.
Right.
But yeah, regardless of, that topic, I would say for adopt versus shop.
Right.
Like, yes, advocate for adopting. Just understand, if you're going to try and change someone's perspective, taking a really hard stance and being vulgar and attacking someone isn't productive. If you think it is, it's because you want a pat on the back. It's self-serving.
Right.
The best example, look at politics. and look how little actually gets done. I'm sure if you're looking at the political sphere the last, I don't know, like 10 years, nothing gets done. Everyone just argues, and everyone is so on the other
Congress gets together
end of the spectrum. Yeah. They get together and it's on your tax dollars. And,
paying everyone's salary to just sit around and argue all day.
I hate
nothing
politics.
Actually gets done.
I'm going to breeze through this really quick.
Right.
'Cause they all suck. But those are two, like, that's a good example of two extremes.
Right.
You see them argue two extremes. Nobody is willing to go to the middle to come up with a rational solution. If you make dog rescue like that, the dogs are the only ones that are suffering.
Right.
Like you might feel good having this extreme stance and you could throw your nose up in the air, but you're not helping the dogs. It's self-serving. So understand if you're going to go into a conversation like that, trying to argue morals and ethics, because there's people that even get triggered about the word, reputable breeder. And
there's no such thing.
You want to have a talk about ethics and morals, fine, but understand that's a very in-depth conversation. It's not something you could have a shouting match on social media over.
And
so if you want to change hearts, you have to go into it like Steph. Her perspective always when she's talking to people is, how can I navigate this conversation to get the outcome I want?
Right.
Sounds a little manipulative.
Yeah.
But it's her going into it thinking, okay,
I'm going into it.
I'm mad. If I come in hot, this person's going to push me away.
If I come in with a compassionate heart and I just want to have a conversation with you, you're going to get a lot more done. And a conversation is actually going to be had.
Yeah.
Just recently, there was someone on a neighborhood Facebook page that posted saying that there was a man who had multiple dogs on his property. They weren't being taken care of. And they posted it as an anonymous person. And they're like, I just want to call the SPCA. This is BS how these dogs are living. And people are like, give me the address. I'm going to go, this is obscene. Why has anyone done anything? And there's like 50 comments of people just like really upset. Yeah. And rightfully so. The dogs, however the condition the dogs were living in, clearly it was enough to upset a whole community. Yeah. But you're trying to tell me that this is like a full street of people that watch these animals on a daily basis when it's freezing outside, that this man has dogs outside or that they're injured or not taken care of, a whole community of people, and no one has done anything. And of course, I'm in my Karen era.
Facebook mom era.
And I hopped in and I was like, has anyone actually had a conversation with this man? Has anyone actually offered help instead of going over there or, everyone on social media, which he's probably going to see, talking all this crap about him? Has anyone actually gone over and been like, hey, I see that the dogs are not being taken care of. What can we do to help? Is this, a financial thing? Do you need help rehoming these dogs? Are you not in a position to take care of these dogs? Yes, of course, I'm pissed too. I don't want to see a dog get hurt or be neglected or abused. But if I go over there and I'm like, hey, dude, you're a piece of shit. Why the fuck do you have these dogs? Yeah. If I come in like that, he's going to be like, lady, get the fuck out of my face. Nothing's going to get done. Sorry, I'm dropping a lot of F-bombs right now. But if you come in hot that way, they're going to get defensive and get hot too. So anyways, come in to the situation where the outcome is the animal, saving the animal, making sure the animal gets, taken care of, then maneuver the conversation that way. Yeah. Because if you come in hot, nothing's going to.
Well, and also understand, you guys have been following Steph and I long enough. Like, we don't take hardcore controversial stances. In part because we're too busy to sit here and argue online, but we're also interested in helping the dogs and letting our body of work speak for us. Yeah. And I could use Dusty Hanshaw as an example. Phenomenal dog owner. His 2 Yorkies he bought, right? Yep. And they have lived great lives. They're actually Yorkies, little dogs that have had like thousands of dollars of professional training, which not many people do with little dogs. Yeah. We knew him personally, started following the rescue for years, fell in love with Nova Gray, and now he adopted Nova Gray, who 2 years with us. Yeah. And she never had a nap outside of Dusty because she had stranger danger and you had to travel to Texas to get her. So you had literally, millions of people with viral reels who saw her and didn't want to take the risk of a dog with that kind of trauma. Dusty Hanshaw, who bought his 2 Yorkies, took that risk, drove to Texas, got a hotel, met her twice, drove her back home, did the trial run, worked through the stranger danger. Yep. So just because you buy a dog at some point, it doesn't make you a bad dog owner. No. So people really do have to shift that narrative.
And it's the only way that things are actually going to get done.
Yeah.
If
that goes for a lot in life, but also dog rescue. Everyone needs to be willing to have actual conversations. and just stop being so damn extreme and falling for the social media side of it, where people do it for clicks because they know it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be my big one. All right. Questions. And the first one I really want to get to, because we get it a lot. And I'm so sorry, guys. I really am. The clothing launch. This has been such a pain in my ass.
Yeah.
I'm so tired and I'm so broke.
Duke has been working really hard on the clothing.
Yeah. In short, again, we went with a company that was new and had a whole lot of promises, and they were not able to uphold them. And we were locked in for like a 6-7 month contract. And with the clothing, and you guys, I think, know this, but this is all through the LLC. So this has been personal money.
Yeah.
That's been burnt. And it's been really sad. But the company we're with now is moving really quick and efficient, and they already have some items knocked out. So I feel really good. I would say a month, 2 months from now, we should have shirts done, ready to go.
Yeah.
So clothing launches come and stick with us. I'm sorry. I know it's been a pain, guys.
And it's not as easy as people think. Like, if we were going through a company that, already manufactured t-shirts and we're like, okay,
Yep.
Bella Canva is a big one that people use, right?
We had the option to do that.
Right. But we wanted to make customized cuts and pick the fabric and do it from scratch. So because we were so anal and like to micromanage, and we wanted something to really call ours, that like we made this,
everything
and feel
from
proud
the
about it.
fabric to the cut,
Right.
style of shirt, design, like everything's custom made. So it's going to be really nice stuff.
Right.
So I'm excited
that's
for it.
why it's taken so long.
Yeah. Craziest rescue you've been a part of. Depends on the way you look at crazy, but I have one in my head already.
I think I have one, but go ahead.
No, good.
No.
You lead.
No. I want to hear yours first.
Okay. So craziest rescue, the way I look at this, isn't necessarily like the craziest abuse or neglect case I've seen.
Okay.
Because we probably can't talk about that anyway. We'll get, canceled. Just the craziest from a dynamic standpoint and everything involved, because it's really never happened where this many organizations were involved, were the puppies that were left outside.
Oh.
So during one of the storms 2 years ago, we were contacted by a
social worker.
I could say it now. It's been long enough. A social worker.
Yeah.
And the only reason she knew us is because she's a previous adopter, but she was working a case where kids were in this house with a mom who was under active
Investigation.
Yeah, not just investigation.
Well,
they had surveillance
on her.
So yeah, they had the cops involved. She was involved. Other organizations, like they were trying to figure out, I guess, who the drug dealer was. So there were dogs involved. And this might be a little much for some people, but she was talking with the kid who, how old was the son?
I think he was like 4 or 5.
It was awful. It was like a 5-year-old kid. And she was on the phone with him, and I guess he wasn't supposed to be on the phone with her. So he said, hold on, I'm going to the bathroom. And he walks into the bathroom and he says, oh, it stinks in here. She goes, what do you mean it stinks? Like, is your bathroom okay? Did you guys not flush? And he goes, no, it's where mom put the dead puppies.
Yeah.
So the mom, I'm not going to dive into the whole situation, but there had been a litter of puppies and she left the puppies outside and forgot, or threw them outside. I don't know. 5 froze to death. No, 9 froze to death.
Yeah.
There were 5 that survived. Obviously, we've talked about this, like, and there's a lot going on. So don't get me wrong. This isn't like a shot, but those other organizations don't care about the dogs. It's not their job.
Yeah.
There isn't really in that situation an organization that's going to go take care of the dogs. Because she knew us, she was able to talk everyone else into letting us go. So, I mean, the house was under surveillance, still kind of a sketchy situation walking up, but Steph and I were permitted to go basically persuade this lady to give us her puppies.
Gave them the heads up that we were not buying drugs from this woman and that we were picking up a box of puppies.
So we were able to get the remaining 5 puppies rescued. But I think just because of all the different organizations and how that played out, especially because Steph and I have seen on the other end, like, dogs are not really a thought in situations like this.
Right.
And I understand there's a lot going on. But it was nice that she knew us and was able to allow us, I guess, to go help those 5 puppies. And we actually saw one of them all grown up probably 6-7 months ago, which was pretty cool. But that's probably the craziest one I could think of.
Craziest one for me was pre-Duke. It was Charles. And Charles and his brother were posted on a Facebook page that they were tethered and they were living in a small enclosed makeshift outdoor kennel. And this was in Lake Elsinore in California. And it was really hot out. And the video showed both dogs had like dug a hole to keep themselves cool. And flies were just covering them everywhere. And this person that posted this video on Facebook also put the person's address, which is a awful thing to do, guys. If you see abuse and neglect, Becca's way better at this than I am, but you have to keep record. Sorry, give me one second.
Yeah.
You have to keep a record of the abuse, the phone calls, calling animal control, recording when you're calling, take video and pictures. The last thing you want to do is post someone's address and put those dogs in danger, because it's very easy for now a homeowner or a abuser to take those dogs and move them somewhere else or dump them somewhere else. And then the dogs aren't going to get the help that they need, right? If you have a bunch of people calling you, showing up to your house, it's not the right thing to do in order to get the dog seen and saved. You get a lot of people riled up on social media. Yes, but until you have all of your ducks in a row from a logistics standpoint and a legal standpoint, all you're doing is putting that dog in danger.
So this goes back to our original topic where I was saying it's self-serving when you come in hot.
Yeah.
That is a big problem that drives me nuts. There was a rescue that got busted in Los Angeles that was basically hoarding dogs in a facility and collecting donations for red list dogs they were rescuing. And the first reaction when the news got out was a bunch of big pages to blast them, name them, their address, all this stuff, where the dogs were. Cops hadn't even arrived. Things were in motion to get done.
Right.
And there ended up being a handful of dogs that she took and nobody found. When you back somebody in a corner, you better be ready to pull the trigger and you better have everything done. And I'm not saying everyone that, comments and blasts people does that. Some people just don't think about it. The big organizations should know better though. And I feel like, again, it's like, I want to feel good and I want clicks.
Right.
It's not in the best interest of the dogs. If you blast someone, just make sure ducks are in a row, like Steph said, and you're ready to pull the trigger.
Right.
And you can ensure those dogs are safe or cops are already there. Because once you blast someone publicly, hand out their name, their address.
Yeah.
Like you've cut all your ties.
Yeah.
They're backed into a corner, just like an animal backed into a corner. Like they will bite.
Yeah.
So now they're desperate and things start to spiral. They have contingency plans maybe. Or maybe, they just drove off with those dogs to try and get rid of the evidence. You don't know.
Desert. Yeah.
So, it would just be patient, I guess.
But back to Charles's story, this person posted that awful video and there's, hundreds of comments like, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go over there. And, I don't know if people showed up prior to me or after me or anything. And someone said, I've already called animal control. They're going to do a wellness check tomorrow. And I'm like, nothing's going to get done. Like, it sucks. It's like probably these people's first offense. They're going to tell them, clean up the yard a little bit, whatever. Because animal control can only do so much with the laws that are in place. Yeah. Right. And it's like, well, they have cover, they have shelter. There's water right there. They're fine.
The shelter law is so dumb.
So, I saw the address and Naya was like, I'll go with you. So Naya hopped in the car with me. We drove to Lake Elsinore, which is about an hour and a half away from where we lived at the time. And I get there and I knock on the door and I told Naya, I was like, stay in the car. And I went and knocked on the door and a older woman answered. And I was like, hi. And she barely spoke English. And she was like, I was like, I'm here about the dogs. And I'm speaking to her in Spanish. I was like, I'm here about the dogs. Someone got a video and posted it on Facebook. Did you have someone on the property, recently? Because it was a pretty up close video. And she goes, oh, I had a worker come fix the pipes in the back. I was like, well, I don't know who got this video, but they posted it on Facebook with your address and animal control is coming tomorrow. I'm giving you the choice right now to surrender those 2 dogs over to me. I knew nothing about these dogs. Like, I didn't know if they were going to bite me, attack me, nothing. They had been tethered in a small box together. It's 100 degrees out and they're covered in flies. And I was like, you have a choice right now. I can take these 2 dogs from you right now and you can tell animal control that you surrendered them to a rescue and I'll give you my name. Or animal control comes tomorrow and you possibly get fined $1,000 per dog, and they'll take the dog and they're going to probably file charges against you and whoever the owner is of these dogs. So she's like, they're not mine. They're not mine. I said, whoever. She goes, my son no longer lives here. They're his dogs. She had this whole story. I was like, well, those are your choices. Like, I'm here to help. I want to help you. I don't want you to get in trouble. So either you surrender the dogs to me right now, or tomorrow animal control comes, might take them, and will fine you $1,000 per dog, and then you'll have like legal, things that you have to deal with. And she goes, no, please, please, please take them. I said, okay, well, I need you to sign surrender paperwork.
I just wanted to jump in case you're not following. The reason Steph did that is because animal control was not going to take these dogs.
Yeah.
Again, if you're not familiar with what qualifies as shelter in the United States, or California and Texas, I guess I can say for sure because we've operated, basically that box would have been like, okay, that shelter, they have a bull over there.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a knock at animal control. That's just the way the law works. Like the shelter law is an absolute joke.
They probably weren't going to take the dogs, but they were most definitely going to fine her.
Yeah. It's money for the city.
Yeah. They were going to fine her. They were going to give her some sort of inadequate.
But I'm saying to the original point,
right.
You were trying to weave that conversation to a place you could help the dogs.
Right. And I said, she was definitely like probably close to her 80s. And I was like, look, I'm sure you don't even want to deal with the dogs. I'm sure it's a lot for you. She goes, they're very hyper. They jump on me. I can't go outside. So that's why we put them in this thing. I was like, look at them. Look at the way they're living. That's not a life for them. And I said, I just want to help you, and I want to help these dogs. So, this can get really messy with animal control coming here and doing an investigation, or you just let me take the dogs and I'll help you out. And she's like, yes, please. That's how I maneuvered the conversation to get those dogs out. Real Good took one of the brothers, because they weren't like bonded or anything. And we took Charles and we got them out of that situation. We got them medically vetted and rehabilitated.
Charles is one of the best dogs ever.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, it's so easy.
Oh, he's such a good dog. Yeah. But we got them adopted out, and I think I was worried. That was one of my first, like, going up to someone's house. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I didn't know who was going to open the door. I didn't know if it was going to be, a man, a woman, how old, nothing. And I was like, all right, well, I'm prepared to have a conversation with this person, and maybe they'll let me take the dogs. Maybe they won't. If they won't let me take the dogs, maybe I can say, okay, look, can I help with the vetting? Like, clearly they need a better situation than what they're in right now. Let me help you. So that's my crazy rescue story.
All right, cool.
Didn't know if I was going to die that day. I definitely don't. I'm not promoting you to go knock on people's doors.
No, be very cautious. Don't do that. If you weren't a rescue, how many personal dogs would you have?
Tops 4 personal dogs.
Man, that was quick.
Yeah, just because I've had that.
Oh, yeah.
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 So
this is such a tough one.
4 dogs was a good number for me. 3 is also a really great number.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything past 4, you're pretty much a rescue.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I would say probably 3.
Yeah.
I think probably 3, because I like bigger dogs, probably like Shepherd's Rots. I think having more than 3 large breed dogs as a normal person is uncommon. Yeah. So like I'd say that as if I'd be common without rescue. Like, I don't know.
I mean, and then I also say this, like, this is not to discourage people from adopting dogs or get an additional dog, but I really liked it when it was just me and Bruce, like me and one dog. And like, I took that dog everywhere. Like, it was very easy. Yeah. He was well trained. I took him everywhere with me.
Well, I just had one. Yeah.
We did adventures. So it's like, it was, I don't know. It was easy with one dog, but then when I saw Bruce with a friend, it was like, oh, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think it depends on the dynamic of the dogs in your life. Like, it's hard to get inside the head of an adopter now after rescue, because with us now, at the point we're at, like, we could have 20 dogs and it's a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Dude, 20 dogs is like easy day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like that most days. No. But yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. I'd say probably 3. Speaking of which, what does your average day look like right now?
Well, I wake up in a panic around 5:30. Oh, sorry. I wake up with lots of energy.
Yes. Alert. Ready to go.
Yes. My heart is racing because I'm so excited for the day. Wake up typically 5:30. And there's a few dogs that absolutely need to go out ASAP.
Yeah.
Because they get loud as soon as they hear one of us open our bedroom door. They're like, yay, it's go time. And they need to go outside to potty. So there's a few dogs that we get out to the outdoor kennels just to go potty get that out of their system. And it's basically the same kind of rotation every morning. And we have the main yard, and then I'll do walks. And it's
I could explain the yards for those that want to follow. So basically yard 3, we have the 10 by 10 kennels.
Yep.
So 10 dogs go into yard 3. From there, depending on if we have kennels in yard 4 or if it's free yard, but like right now, from yard 3, Steph can take dogs out into the field to do a walk. I could take dogs from yard 3 into yard 2 for play group, obedience work, leash work, whatever it is they need to do that day. And then those dogs go inside, and dogs from the house replace them in yard 3, and we grab another dog, and it's like literally just repeat for 16 hours.
I want to say it's 3 sets of rotation.
It's basically what it comes out to, because we do have the seniors, which is like a group of 7.
Yeah.
And then Barney, Sammy, Rain can go out together, Moose, Chevy. Like there's a handful of different small groups we have, and then there's a handful of dogs that have to be the only dogs.
Yeah.
Like the Simba, Beth, type dogs that have to be just them. So yeah, it could vary, but that's basically a full rotate. So 6 a.m. ground running, we're going. Steph goes to do the horses.
Right.
And barn chores. She comes back. Typically, we're through 2 full rotates
by 11 a.m.
And then we go train.
Yep.
And then come back, and it's basically the same with the exception of then there's dinner time.
Yep.
Which is super fun.
It's really loud.
Dinner time's a full blown party. And then last rotates less. I guess I don't want to say maintenance, but it's less work because it's quicker rotates where it's just one-on-one time in the yard, because we do need to still spend one-on-one time.
Right.
Or we want to, I guess.
Well, and I'll do night walks.
You'll do night walks, and I'll do the singles in the yard, especially for like dogs like Nacho. And Nacho can tolerate other dogs, but like
she doesn't want to.
She's an older girl, so it's nice to just kind of hang out with her. Like she just wants butt pats. But yeah, that's basically, I mean, it's, I think people look at rescue sometimes and think it's super exciting.
Play with dogs all day.
It's basically rotating. Like you're basically the ultimate foster.
Yeah.
Is basically what rotating is. And then there's vet days and shelter trips and stuff like that. But that basically just replaces the 1.5 hours, 2 hours we're out of the house for the gym. Like it'd be non-days where we go and knock that out.
Yeah.
And then just the little things. Like Steph makes fun of me, but our house is very clean. Like if you've ever come over for a meet and greet, you know that our house is clean, not just for like 30 to 40 dogs, it's just clean.
Yeah.
And that's because like when a dog comes in, the Swiffer's on one end and it's like, okay, go, follow, next dog, follow, back out. So it's just kind of constant cleaning throughout the day to get that done. I think the only like super stressful parts of the day are if one of us has a work emergency, like for our day jobs.
Yeah.
Cause like I'll try and line things up the night before to where I'm like, okay, I'm walking this dog at this time, or we're going to be in the car going to the vet at this time. I could do my calls here.
Right.
If something pops up where one of us has to take a call, then one of us is kind of left in the weeds trying to do 2 jobs, because Steph and I will split up throughout the day, and then our day gets thrown off and it's a little topsy-turvy, but that's kind of the average day.
We try to remind ourselves that rescue is so unpredictable.
Yeah.
And, today we might have planned to do X, Y, and Z, and then all of a sudden a dog has explosive diarrhea, and we need to go to the vet. I
was gonna say, like today with the podcast, we had to like haul ass this morning to try and sit down to do this. And then it basically means instead of wrapping up at 11:30, we're going to wrap up around midnight, playing catch up, but we get to put out videos for you guys, which we do like doing. It's nice.
I like creating content.
Yeah. All right. This one drives me nuts, and not the person that asked it, just the question in general.
Okay.
Because it hurts rescues, I think. Is it basically a no-go for adopters without fencing, or those that live in apartments?
No. No, and actually, just before we answer that question, I recently had a foster reach out. She used to foster for us. Ask, is it okay if a dog's in their crate for more than like 5 hours at a time? Like,
depends on the dog.
Yes, it depends on the dog. But also, people have had 9 to 5s forever.
Yeah.
And they've owned dogs, and dogs have had to hold it for that long. If someone can come home during their lunch break and let a dog out to potty, wonderful. But a dog can hold it for 7-8 hours.
It just depends on what you're doing before work and after work.
Yes. So to the question that was asked, yes, absolutely. We do adopt out to people who don't have a fenced-in yard or live in apartments.
Yeah, a fenced-in yard does not make or break a good dog owner.
No. Are there dogs specifically that we would not adopt out to someone who doesn't have a fenced-in yard or lives in an apartment? Yes, but that has nothing to do with you as an individual. That has everything to do with the dog and their personality traits that would not be, would not do well in a apartment, whether because, they have separation anxiety or they're extremely loud where your neighbors are probably going to get you kicked out of the
like Littlefoot's got some husky in her. Yeah. She's a dog that could go to an apartment, but I would definitely like hammer it in like, hey, she's going to be loud sometimes.
Yeah. She's going to get her little husky
Tony
stings.
is a dog that had to have a fence.
Yep. Being
extremely reactive and just kind of his energy level and how he does on walks. But I would say 80% of our adoptable dogs right now don't need a fenced-in yard.
No. Like and that perspective changed for me early on in rescue. We rescued a husky named Jeff. And Jeff was a really tough case. He was 8 months old when we rescued him. He was unaltered. He was tethered on a 5-foot lead his whole life in I think it was like a garage or something. And his owners had moved and they left him behind. And this guy was just going over and feeding him. So can you imagine a husky that's 8 months old, unaltered, that had been tethered his whole life?
Super shitty.
He was like bonkers, had all this energy and a wonderful
world outside the garage.
Man. This family reached out about fostering him and they lived in an apartment. And I was like, okay, this is a husky, right? It was a duplex apartment. So it was one other unit next to them. And I reached out to a husky rescue and I was like, hey, how do you guys feel about adopting huskies out or letting fosters who live in an apartment foster a husky? And they're like, actually, we prefer it. And I was like, what? A husky? They're like, yeah, people who live in apartments are really structured. They have to take their dog out on leash to go for walks and exercise them, as opposed to someone who has a backyard who just... Oh, they have a backyard. They run around all day.
And backyards are nice. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, when you're in an apartment, you're forced to go walk your dog, to work on leash, reactivity, whatever it may be. So apartments are not a turnoff for us. No. Not having a fenced in yard, not a turnoff for us. I think we need to add that to the contract because I feel like some people, because it's a question in there.
Right.
But there's a lot of shit in the
whoa. A lot of shit.
Not a lot of shit, but there's a lot of questions on the application because we want to know everything about you. And if you're applying for a dog that for whatever reason does need a fenced in yard, we need to know so we don't waste your time. But no, it's not like a deal breaker where if you don't have an 8-foot board on board fence, we're not going to adopt the dog deal.
I think also people need to realize, I was talking to another rescue about this the other day, that they get some really great applications sometimes for certain dogs and they have to deny applications. And it's not about you not like being a good dog owner or, you answered a question incorrectly or anything like that. It's the fact that we've spent time with these animals and we know that it's not going to do well in that environment, but it's no knock on you personally. It's, hey, this dog, we'll take Tony as an example. Tony is extremely reactive on leash to anything like, a bunny, another dog. So could you work through it? Absolutely. Right. You could work through it. And we got to a point where Tony had enough training that he could walk by another dog and not lose it.
Yeah.
But would Tony be happy in an environment where he constantly has to walk by another dog in an apartment complex? Right. It would be stressful for Tony to constantly be, on alert.
Yeah.
And instead of having a backyard that's fenced in where he can run around and he could chase a squirrel if he wants to, but it wouldn't be fun for Tony being in an apartment complex. Right. We know that about him. It has nothing to do with you. You're probably such a kick-ass dog owner and you applied for Tony and you're wonderful, but Tony's just not the right fit for you in that environment. So it has nothing to do with you as a person. So don't feel like if you got denied by a rescue that you shouldn't apply for another dog.
Yeah. Well, I will say the blanket one I don't like, because there are some rescues that it's like very clear. You don't have a fence. You live in an apartment. It's a hard no matter what. And I think that's a stretch. Playing devil's advocate, though, because I was thinking about this yesterday. I can see a scenario where, from a liability standpoint, maybe that rescue has to operate that way because let's say they adopted out into a dog to somebody without a fence and that dog got out and bit someone and that person turned around and sued the rescue and it went to court. And he was like, well, did you make sure the owners had a fence? Well, no, but they were good. And it's like, well, too bad.
Yeah.
So from a liability side of it, I think rescues maybe that have gotten in trouble previously
or have had,
their
experiences.
insurance companies might require them. So that's something you guys have to consider that I didn't even really consider until yesterday.
Yeah.
When I was really thinking about it. Insurance is really brutal with dog rescue, and there's a lot of questions they ask. So I could see a world where a rescue got in trouble with something like that.
Yeah.
Or got in trouble at an apartment complex, and their insurance company is like, we're dropping you unless you no longer adopt people in apartments, or you only adopt people with fencing, we're dropping you.
Yeah.
So that's a situation where I'd give some rescues some grace, I think, on that end. How to train with low drive dogs or non-food motivated dogs.
Well, I think it's just finding what that dog actually enjoys, right? It doesn't always have to be food. It can be affection. It can be a toy.
Yep.
Whatever they find as a reward, you just have to figure that one out first, right?
Yeah. So I'd say food can be really helpful, but if I can avoid treats, I actually prefer it.
Yeah.
But it is going to depend on the drive of the dog, genetics of the dog. Genetics do matter too when it comes to training. Like, I use Branch, now Jeffrey, as an example, and he's an awesome dog.
Sweet boy.
But like he's up here, and Jeff's drive was 0 and his IQ wasn't real bright. So, like if you're looking...
He's a sweet boy.
Yeah. If you're looking for a dog, that you want to do a bunch of crazy obedience work with, and then you're also looking at a Pyrenees, you probably didn't do your homework, is where I'm getting. And if you're struggling with a dog because treats have always been your go-to, I would say, try toys.
Yeah.
Toys can be a thing. Praise can be a thing. If the reward for your dog doing a good job, if it's structured right, is getting praise from you, that's kind of ideal.
Yeah.
But with low drive dogs, I would also say something a lot of people don't do is focus on engagement. I use Lucy as an example, a shepherd we had that had the lowest drive of any shepherd I've ever seen. The only way to get through her basic obedience with us was by really, really solely focusing on making sure she was having a good time, and she was not food motivated. She was not toy motivated, and she did like praise, but like you get that dog on leash and 5 minutes into basic obedience work, she'd lay down and be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So when we started doing stop and start drills where I'd have her hold a sit and then come to me, I would make sure, keeping her engagement up. So even if she broke a little bit early the first few weeks, and it might be months, like I'm still rewarding her for doing a good job. I'm, cheering her on using my dog voice, you know what I mean? Because I want her to be excited. So it's like, hey, sit. And then I'd see her start to break a little early, and I would break and be like, come, to make sure she kind of reiterated and did a good job, as opposed to like a Lola where I know she's on it. She has high drive. And if she breaks that sit, it's a correction. Nope, back to it. We're starting over.
Right.
Because Lola can process that. Like a high drive dog is more willing to be like, oh, I messed up, my bad, correct, good. With a dog like Lucy, a low drive dog, I want to give them more grace, if that makes sense. Like if she breaks, I still want to catch it like, yes, good job, back into it. Yes, good job. And then you could see the engagement go up. And as they get better, you could start implementing a little bit more strict timing.
Yeah.
But I would say focus on engagement, make it fun for your dog, and don't be too hard on them, I guess, you know what I mean? Like it's just different skill sets you're dealing with.
Yeah, I think time frame also is really important. If a dog doesn't have such a high drive to do X, Y, and Z, whatever task you're trying to get them to do, just do short training increments.
Yes, that's the other thing. Don't drag it on.
Don't do 30-minute and hour-long sessions. Just do 10 minutes, 5 minutes at a time where the dog's like engaged. Good. Okay. Yeah, I can do this. And then when you see the dog start being like, well, I don't want to do this anymore, cut it short.
Yep.
Because you don't want to get frustrated during training. If the dog's not fully engaged in the training, you're wasting everyone's time.
Well, if you find what motivates the dog too, they're going to be more inclined to continue to work.
Right.
Like, with Lucy, if the bulk of her affection and pets and, attention are coming while she's working, and we only do 5 minutes, and then I shut it down and I'm not loving her all the time, she's going to be like, I like this better when we were working. Like I'm going to be more inclined next time we go out for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to work.
Right.
So you just have to kind of play on that and get outside your comfort zone. Like treats are great because it's easier to train a dog for sure. But if you can avoid them, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's better, but it's more practical in kind of a real life setting. You know what I mean?
Right.
As opposed to like carrying treats around with you all the time. So,
I mean, I carry snacks with me all the time.
Yeah. for you.
For me, yeah.
No, but that'd be my advice. Like low drive dogs, you can break through to most of them. And the reality, again, genetics, drive play a role. So,
Yeah.
I think pretty much every dog you can get through basic obedience work with.
Yeah.
But if you have a dog and you really wanted perfect recall, like I'm sorry, I'm picking on Branch, but Branch is a dog. I'm like, dude, I told the Tuttles this. I was like, I'm never going to get recall with this dog. Like I'm never going to get good recall. I'm not that good. I don't know if anyone's that good. So there's some dogs based on the breed, their genetics, their drive, where you're just capped, and that's okay. Like cover basic obedience, make sure they're a well-behaved dog relatively, and understand not everyone's a Malinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I got. I think that's all we got for this topic and Q&A. So thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget, like, comment, share, subscribe. Please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and
ring that bell.
ring the bell. See you guys next time.
Okay, bye.